How did the United States, a country so young by historical standards, rise to superpower status? And why do so many myths about it persist around the world? Myths that sometimes emerge from university lecture halls and even make their way into school textbooks. Now we dive into 5 popular historical misconceptions about the USA, uncover their origins, and see why many of them are far from the truth. Let's start with the most persistent myth that most Americans are descendants of the British, making America a sort of younger brother to Great Britain. However, this is not actually the true story. The first wave of European colonists was not exclusively English. The French, Spanish, and Germans all arrived either earlier or alongside the English. The first 4 permanent colonies on American soil weren't even British, but were founded by French Huguenots: Port Royal, Fort Caroline, and the Spanish, St. Augustine, Fort San Juan. In fact, the first European language spoken in the New World was not English, but Spanish. The English arrived significantly later, and though they eventually became the region's most influential group, their impact was not as all-encompassing as is often thought. Looking at modern census data, the picture becomes even more interesting. Only 26 million Americans claim British ancestry, whereas 43 million trace their roots to Germany. Germans actually make up the largest ethnic group in the US, even though Germany did not play a dominant role in early American colonization until the 18th century. Like many other European groups, Germans came to the New World pursuing various goals, whether for religious tolerance or economic opportunities. While American culture is often associated with British heritage, its roots are far richer, encompassing the contributions of many ethnic groups that have shaped the country's development. Another common belief is that America became a refuge for all marginalized and desperate people in Europe. While it's true that some of the early settlers were adventurers or people looking to escape financial hardships, they were far fewer than is often imagined. For instance, the province of Georgia was indeed founded by James Oglethorpe as a colony for those in British debtors' prisons. But in many other parts of America, the first settlers were people simply seeking religious freedom. Remember that, in the early 17th century, England was in turmoil due to religious conflicts. Catholics, Anglicans, and Puritans clashed, each facing intolerance from the others. The Puritans, not adventurers, were the first to arrive on the Mayflower in 1620. Most of them were neither criminals nor individuals pursuing wealth. Rather, they were devout people looking to build a society where their beliefs would not be suppressed. Moreover, a significant portion of the first colonists belonged to the more affluent segments of society. These people were accustomed to a comfortable lifestyle and were unprepared for the harsh conditions of the new land. This lack of preparation led to high mortality rates among early colonists. The grim statistics from Jamestown, where up to 80% of the first settlers died, confirm that they were not exactly hardy adventurers. They were people barely able to cope with the new reality. It's often assumed that religious freedom is one of the foundational principles of American culture established by the first settlers, but reality strays from this idealistic image. The early colonies founded by Puritans quickly turned into strictly regulated religious communities that didn't tolerate other beliefs. The Puritans, who had sought relief from persecution themselves, established rules in their colonies that reserved privileges and political rights solely for members of their church. Representatives of other faiths, such as Catholics and Jews, faced exclusionary practices. It wasn't until the late 18th century that the US began to develop ideas around religious freedom. The First Amendment to the Constitution, guaranteeing freedom of religion, was adopted only in 1791. And while this was an essential step toward a truly free society, the practice of religious exclusion persisted in some states for many more decades. Also, many believed that the United States was founded as a democratic state where power should belong to the people. The founding fathers, such as John Adams, did not aim to create a direct democracy. Adams wrote that the US is a nation of laws, not people. Rather than building a straightforward democracy, the Founding Fathers crafted a carefully balanced system that combined different elements: a touch of monarchy in the form of the president, a hint of aristocracy with the Senate, and the voice of the people through the House of Representatives. This blend was designed to create stability, allowing different powers to keep each other in check. For example, senators were appointed until 1913, and even today, presidential elections go through the Electoral College rather than by direct popular vote. American citizens formally don't elect the president directly, and sometimes the electoral vote does not align with the popular vote. Therefore, the original U.S. governance model was markedly different from a direct democracy, and elements of popular election were introduced gradually over time. Another famous myth surrounds the U.S. War of Independence. It's widely believed that Britain harshly controlled the colonies, which fought to break free from its control. However, the British administration was more of a hands-off approach. This was one of the factors that led to the war. Britain simply couldn't keep up with fully administering its colonies or establishing a comprehensive governance system. Economic issues were managed through private corporations, which created tension between the British government and the rapidly developing American economy. Moreover, the War of Independence was not a fight against an insurmountable power. At the time, Britain's population was around 8 million, while the colony's population was about 3 million. The size of the British Army was comparable to the colonial forces, and the Atlantic Ocean hindered British supply lines. The balance of power on the battlefield was much more even than often assumed, and the Americans received crucial help from allies, France, Spain, and the Netherlands. The support of the French Navy in particular played a critical role in the American victory at Yorktown. To fully appreciate America's unique journey, let's explore 5 fascinating facts that offer deeper insight into the nation's roots. These details reveal hidden stories of resilience, cultural influences, and early struggles that shaped the country's ideals. As the story unfolds, we find that America's diversity was reflected even in early political debates. For instance, in the late 18th century, a close congressional vote nearly made German an official language, highlighting the strong presence of German-speaking immigrants and the multilingual nature of early America. Meanwhile, the survival of early settlers was anything but guaranteed. During the brutal winter of 1609 to 1610, known as the Starving Time in Jamestown, only 60 of the 500 colonists survived. Archaeological findings suggest they faced such hardship that some may have resorted to cannibalism. Stark evidence of the harsh realities of colonial life. Religious freedom, often seen as a founding principle, had its own complications. Though Puritans fled England to escape religious persecution, they did not always grant that same freedom to others. In Massachusetts, they harshly punished Quakers, whom they saw as heretics, using fines, whippings, and even exile or execution. The support of foreign allies also played a critical role in America's path to independence. The French, for example, not only established settlements, but also offered crucial military support during the American Revolution. The victory at Yorktown, thanks in large part to French aid, was a turning point that secured American independence. And while the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1776 marked the birth of the nation, the 4th of July wasn't officially recognized as a national holiday until 1870. Early celebrations were local and festive, blending patriotism with community parades and cannon salutes, bringing Americans together to honor their newfound identity. So, myths about the U.S. tell us more about our assumptions than about history itself. We're accustomed to seeing the United States through a romanticized lens as a country founded on the ideals of freedom and equality, always loyal to democracy and independence. But history shows us that, like all nations, the U.S. evolved through complex compromises and the struggles of competing interests. When we come across another myth about the great country of freedom, let's remember that no nation, not even one as young and documented as the U.S., can entirely escape the legends, myths, and illusions tied to its past.